Okay. Yeah, thank you, Isaac. Okay. Right. So, what I'm going to talk to you about now is the title of my talk, which is really just notes, is 70 years of Keynesian economics. 70 years of Keynesian economics. Okay. So the talk is really about the fallacy of fiscal stimulus. Right? We've all heard about fiscal stimulus, and it's become part of our culture. Fiscal stimulus is part of our culture, and it's been part of our culture for 70 years. And so that's what I'm going to talk to you about. Why is it part of our culture? How it became part of our culture? What it is? Why it's a fallacy? Okay. But first, I'd like to thank the Manhattan Libertarian Party for having me here. It's an honor to be here and to see so many people here. And when I first moved to New York 2.5 years ago, I moved to Brooklyn, and I helped Dr. Steve Finger with his candidacy for the House of Representatives, and we did school choice. Steve was big on school choice. And I helped him distribute school choice literature in near Prospect Park. And on the wealthy side of Prospect Park, people weren't interested in whatsoever. And then when we would go to the poor side of Prospect Park, Steve Finger was like a hero. They were very receptive to being able to choose schools for their children. And so anyway, that was kind of an eye-opening activist libertarian adventure for me. And another time, I hope Gary doesn't get mad at me if I tell this story, but Gary Popkin and I went to a public school on the poor part of town, and we were on a public sidewalk, passing out school choice literature, and we got chased away by the school administrator, who actually got the school security guard to chase us off the public sidewalk distributing school choice literature. And I know that people liked it there because I was with Steve there, and how happy they were to see him. Okay, and also about the Libertarian Party in New York. I don't know if everyone's read Jim Brzezinski's book called The Walton Street Gang. It's a very good, funny, well-written book, novel about the American entrepreneurial culture, and about how the bureaucracy and the system holds our natural intuition for creativity and exchanging with each other. So I can recommend that. And also I'd like to thank Isaiah from the Libertarian Party, who's our new president of the chapter. He guest lectured at my economic history class on monetary policy and free banking. So the point is, I'm very glad to be involved with this group of people. And so anyway, in 1938, there was this law passed called the Pump Priming Act of 1938, okay? So that's 70 years ago. And so the Pump Priming Act was the first time that there was overtly Keynesian economics, okay? So that's why the title of my talk is 70 Years of Keynesian Economics. Now, what does that say, the Pump Priming Act? Okay, we were in a depression. So what that says is the economy is like an engine or a closed physics system, which requires a pump to prime it, and that's what Keynesian economics is. If you have, it says that. Well, what is Keynesian economics? It means that governments should run deficits when times are tough, like now. You should prime the pump of the economy. So that's a fallacy. That assumes that the economy, society, people, is like an engine that needs to be primed and pumped. That's when you hear fiscal stimulus and Keynesian economics, which 90% of economists believe in. Most of the undergrad textbooks, that's what they teach you. That's what they assume, is that economy, society, and people are like an engine which can be run by, mixing the linear version of gasoline. And, okay, other people don't believe that society is that way, and I would say that most of the libertarians don't believe that society and the economy is that way. Some people think that society is made up of individuals acting freely interacting and contracting and contributing to each other's benefit, with society as an open-ended system that doesn't need any central pump priming, okay? So where government is an inhibitor of human activity instead of something which can help human activity. Okay, so what is the problem with Keynesian economics? Keynes, by the way, was a very good economist. In 1918, he wrote a book called The Consequences of the Peace, which said that the penalties put on the German government after World War I would cause hyperinflation, would cause unrest, and would cause dictatorships. In 1918, he said that. So he was right. He was right, okay? But he was concerned about unemployment during the Great Depression. And so he said, okay, the government needs to step in and do something about this. Okay? So he was a humanist. He was worried about unemployment. So he suggested the government run deficits when times are bad. Now, fallacy number one with that, as it's turned out over the last 70 years of history, is that government is supposed to run deficits when times are bad and run surpluses or neutral government spending equal revenue when times are good. But that doesn't happen, right? Government keeps on spending even when times are good. So Keynesian economics has failed because you can prime the pump when times are bad, but then you should pull back when times are good, and government doesn't do that. And so what we've ended up with in the United States is $11 trillion in debt. For 70 years, accumulated debt is $11 trillion, which is $40,000 per person. And if you take the net present value of all of the Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security, it works out to $160,000 per person in debt now. And it's approaching a point where the net value of all the assets in the United States is equal to what the government owes the people of the United States. So that's 70 years of Keynesian economics. Fallacy number two, where does this spending go? The government spends money, where does it go? We all know about special interest groups. Okay, James Buchanan won the Nobel Prize in 1986. He talked about government failure, not market failure. Government, bureaucrats, employees, politicians, all are self-interested actors in the economy. They decide where the money goes. And what happens is you get bridges to nowhere, roads to nowhere. You get massive construction projects which are supposed to start being built when times are bad, but they continue on when times are good. So society's assets are put towards fallacious uses because there is no market signal to decide where these things should go.